Ladies and gentlemen, guess who's back? TNA is back again. Thankfully, they'll be at the Palms this weekend for TNA Rebellion plus an Impact taping on Sunday. You can go get your tickets, Ticketmaster.com, at the Palms, Saturday and Sunday. And joining us to talk about that specifically, a man we talked to on Zoom a few weeks ago, but that doesn't really count. Now we in person in the studio, the TNA World Champion Moose. Moose, how you doing today on Media Day?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me in person.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I told you I wanted to talk about the NFL draft coming up because we are a week away from that. And of course, you were in the NFL. And I want to ask you, when it comes to your draft experience, that entire weekend and that whole process leading up to it, is it stressful? Is it when you finally get that call? Like, how is it?
It's definitely nerve-wracking because unless you're like the top 10 picks, you really don't know where you're going to go. Like in my situation, during my draft, my agent told me I could go anywhere from the 3rd round to the 6th round. So it was a big window. And it was funny because all the teams that showed a lot of interest in me was the Cowboys, the Titans, the Broncos. I forget, it was like 2 more teams. During the draft, I talked to the guy from the Cowboys like 3-4 times, and he was like, "Oh, we're still very interested. We're hoping if we don't get who we gonna get in our 3rd round pick, we're gonna get you." And they never drafted me. I ended up getting drafted by a team I never spoke to, which was the Atlanta Falcons. So
it always works out like that, right?
In the 5th round. So I tell the kids who are listening to this, don't put all your marbles in one basket. Be open-minded, because a team you never worked out for, a team you didn't do an interview with, a team you never talked to is probably the team that's going to end up drafting you.
Yeah, I have to ask you, Sean Merriman, Chargers legend, he does a lot of things here in Vegas, and he's frequently on the show, and he knows I'm from Cleveland, and he's like, I'm going to be honest with you, I did not want to play for the Browns when I was in my draft process.
Yeah,
so
but you don't have that control.
So you're I need to get in the building somewhere.
I was trying to make money, so it doesn't matter who drafted me. If there was a team on Mars that drafted me, I guess I would be going to Mars to play. So it doesn't matter. Like, I mean, I think Sean Merriman was a top 10 pick, right? So
he was I want to say 13. He was top 15 for sure.
Yeah, so he had a little bit of saying on where he wanted to go, but at the end of the day, you have no saying.
Well, and another thing he told me too is that like his, I guess we'll call it rookie moment, is he tackled LT in the backfield. He was very excited about it, right? So he got hyped, and then the coaches were like, "You do that shit again,
you're fucking out of here.
You're out of here. Don't touch him."
Yeah.
For you, what was like your rookie or welcome to the league moment?
It was the way I got my name, actually. So there's a rule as a rookie. Before practice, you have to wait till all the vets get their ankles taped before you get up to get your ankles taped.
And this is with Atlanta, correct?
Yeah, and I remember not knowing that rule, and it was time for practice. I got the training tape to get my ankles taped, and Michael Vick walks in and was like, "Get your ass off the table, Moose." And that's how I got the name Moose, by Michael Vick just throwing it out there. Later on, I found out that the reason why he called me Moose is because there was a guy that played on the team a few years before I did, and I looked just like him, and his nickname was Moses. First off, you expanded on, that's incredible. I didn't know Mike Vick gave you the name. That's super dope. Yeah.
And before we get into everything with TNA, I want to ask you, when it comes to coaching, right? If I ask you to compare learning football and being coached in football, learning wrestling and being coached in wrestling, like what were some of the differences?
Differences. I mean, it's obviously a big difference because football has a playbook, right, that you have to study. Wrestling, you're just you're learning principles, and you're learning not to hurt people, and you're learning it. So it's 2 different things. It's like one is a playbook, and one is kind of like, it's almost like learning a movie script compared to learning, you know what I'm saying, how it's two different things.
Yeah, because it's like learning the principles, because you never know. It's like it's live, anything can happen, right? When we talk about TNA, TNA comes back It was here in Vegas at the Palms, one of my favorite environments for a wrestling event that I've ever been to. The energy and just how everyone in that crowd, it felt like everyone was so proud, right?
Yeah.
And we are here in Las Vegas. Whether you win or lose, you got plenty to do to celebrate. What was your celebration like that night?
Oh, honestly, I was so beat up. I don't remember doing much. I think a couple of guys went to the nerd bar. I think I showed face for about 10 minutes, but my body was so hurt that I just went back to the hotel. So my celebration usually depends on how I feel physically. So if it's an easy night in the office, I might go have a drink or two. If it's not, then I might just sit in the room and eat junk. Yeah.
Really? There's not cheap meals? Sometimes
I haven't had a cheat meal because I told myself, obviously everybody that sees what Nick looks like. He looks like a Greek god, right? All shredded. So I told myself, I was like, I'm not going to let Nick make me look like a fat piece of shit. So for the last 4 or 5 weeks, I've been like dialed it down, haven't had a cheat meal, haven't eaten like crap. So I think the first thing we're going to do after Saturday night is see what Vegas has to offer food-wise.
Well, first off, I want to shout out the Nerd Bar. Good people down there. Yeah. The good times over there. But I need to ask you, when you have cheat meals, what do they look like?
I'm more of a sweet guy. So cake, cookies, donuts, ice cream. I'm not really big into pizza and burgers and burritos.
Or like a steak and with all the stuff.
I'm more into give me all the sweet. Give me a sugar rush. Give me diabetes right now.
I feel you. I feel you.
That's how I am.
Clearly, I feel you.
Yeah.
I wanna ask you too. TNA just announced you can pre-order them. I think they come out next week. But the action figures are back.
Action figures, yeah.
My man, you're in an action figure.
I'm in an action figure.
So you got your action figure. You've been on action figures. You've been on Madden.
Yeah.
You've been on billboards.
Yeah.
Clearly, you're on the flyer. You're front and center with the title. Which one is like the coolest in your opinion? Because they're all super dope. But if I have to make you pick one,
what's the coolest? Probably the action figure. The only reason I'll say because my rating on Madden wasn't as good as I wanted it to be. I think I was a 79, maybe 80 overall. So my rating on Madden sucked, and that's the highest I've ever been when I was on Madden. So I'd say having the action figure and the action figure having the title on it and my sweet fucking robe on it, I think that's probably the coolest.
Well, it's because it's also like it's not just like. I don't collect action figures or anything like that. But you have the ones that you could, pick up for a couple bucks. Then you have the ones that are like super authentic. Yeah. And that's the joint that you have. That's super authentic. One thing I do want to ask you, in this day and age, it's really cool that I guess the word that goes around is all these forbidden doors are open. In the past 2 years, Jordan Grace has been able to represent TNA at the Royal Rumble and everything. Yeah. I'm just curious, did they ever reach out to you to do the men's Royal Rumble?
Not that I know of. That's a question you have to ask management. That's above my pay scale, but I do think this is a great time to be a professional wrestler. You don't know what's going to happen. There's so many relationships out there with different companies that it's truly a great time to be a pro wrestler right now.
I mean, the slogan is wrestling is cool again. That's what everyone keeps throwing out. And, talking about all these relationships, I want to ask you honestly, no disrespect to Nick, but you've been here when it comes to TNA, and you guys have built, for lack of a better term, this brand back. And there's a lot of pride and a lot of camaraderie in this locker room with guys like you, Josh Alexander. I just mentioned Jordan Grace, and what so many of the talents have been able to build up. Is there a sense that this weekend at Rebellion, not only is it about you keeping your title, but kind of protecting and keeping this in TNA?
No, I don't think like that. I mean, if Nick was to get lucky enough to beat me, I think he's a good person to carry the company on his back. I'm glad he's with the company. I mean, especially being the big superstar like himself. But let's be honest, he's not going to beat me. I'm formerly known as the wrestling guy for a reason. There's levels to this, and but if he was, if I was to slip on a banana peel and he somehow got a 1, 2, 3, I think he would be a great guy to keep the torch going. But that's not going to happen.
And I brought up earlier the pride and the energy that was in the Palms earlier this year for Hard to Kill. For you've wrestled in a lot of different places. How does that stack up to to these other nights in your career that you'll remember?
I would never forget when I won the title last in January at the Palms. That was the energy. It was great because the crowd never died out. They stayed the same from the beginning match of the night to the end. And I'm hoping we get the same crowd this Saturday.
2 last questions. Drake and Kendrick Lamar. What's your side on this beef?
I don't know much about it. I've heard the rumbles, but I don't even know how it started, who said what, but I have heard rumbles about them too, and there's one more person involved.
J. Cole too. So what do you listen to?
I listen to rap. I listen to hip hop, but I stay off Twitter. So, and Twitter's the only way I will know what's going on. Right?
So you just listen to the music.
I listen to music, but I don't know much. I did know that there was something going on between those three. I couldn't tell you what it is. I couldn't tell you who said what about what, but I do know there's some kind of, and I don't think it's anything serious. I think all three.
It's about wanting to be the best.
I think all three of them are friends. They're just having a little friendly competition.
If I made you pick one though, your preference of who you enjoy more, who do you go with?
I think Drake is probably the I don't know if he's the best rapper, but he's certainly the most famous out of the three of them, right?
Yeah, I would. Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, maybe him and Kendrick.
Not him and Kendrick. I think Drake is the most famous out of all three rappers. So in my book, he's the most famous. He's the best out of all three of them. I mean, what are you judging it by?
Who's the best?
But who's more famous?
I think that if you bring in numbers, that kind of dilutes the argument. It's like, okay, if you take LeBron and Jordan, I don't care who won more titles.
I'm asking you a question. Who's more famous between Kendrick Lamar, Drake, and J. Cole? Who's the most famous?
Probably be Drake.
Then he's the best.
Nah, he makes R&B music. We talk about who's a better rapper. It's like who's a better wrestler in the ring. Someone might not sell enough tickets, but if they're bet, you don't think that's like a thing?
No, when it comes to making music, music is music. I don't care. I feel like people try to move the goalpost by saying, "Oh, he makes R&B." Then, tell J. Cole and Kendrick to make R&B music if that's the case.
Fair enough. Yeah. Fair enough.
So in that, it's kind of like saying who is a better actor? Who gives a fuck? Who's the most popular actor? The Rock. So he's the best.
There it is.
Yeah.
And our final question for those here in Las Vegas that might not have something to do this weekend, what would be your suggestion on something that they could go to?
Come to the Palms, 420, great date, and watch myself and Nic Nemeth fight for this TNA World Champion. Also watch other great wrestlers on our roster do their thing at the Palms.